I thought I'd seen everything: combat zones, break-ins, real danger. But nothing prepared me for 3 fake cops in tactical gear pounding on my front door, demanding HOA fees for a neighborhood I didn't belong to. They picked the wrong house. And the real police were already on their way. I didn't buy the house because it was pretty. I bought it because it was quiet. After nearly 2 decades in the Marines, I didn't want neighbors close enough to comment on my lawn or ask me to join a block party. I didn't want smiling faces, matching mailboxes, or community newsletters telling me what color my curtains should be. I wanted space. Distance. A place where the only thing I had to worry about was whether my coffee was strong enough in the morning. That's how I ended up just outside Austin, on a stretch of land that sat awkwardly between civilization and nowhere. My house wasn't fancy. Workshop style. A little beat up. Sun-faded siding. Concrete porch. Solid bones. The kind of place that didn't pretend to be something it wasn't. Just like me. The most important detail was what it didn't have. No HOA. I checked the paperwork twice before I signed. Then again after I moved in. The property had been zoned separately years ago, sold directly from the previous owner. No overlap. No shared governance. No fine print. Completely independent. That wasn't an accident. That was the whole point. For the first few years, life was exactly what I'd hoped it would be. Quiet mornings. Long evenings. I fixed things, worked with my hands, kept to myself. My dog Moose was always nearby. Big guy. Part shepherd, part something else, all muscle and instinct. He had the kind of eyes that watched everything without looking like it. Then, 2 years ago, someone broke into my house while I was at work. They didn't just steal things. They tore the place apart. Cabinets dumped. Tools scattered. And Moose. Moose barely made it. I came home to blood on the floor and my dog shaking in the corner, barely breathing. That moment flipped a switch in my head I didn't know was still there. The next day, I upgraded everything. Reinforced locks. Steel core door frames. Motion-activated lights. Cameras covering every angle. Face recognition. A silent panic system tied directly to the sheriff's office. People hear that and think paranoia. But paranoia is fear without reason. This was preparation. I slept better after that. The funny thing is, I never imagined the next threat would come wearing gym shoes and carrying a clipboard. Across the road sat Maple Ridge. It was the kind of planned community you see on billboards. Faux stone walls at the entrance. Manicured hedges trimmed so clean they looked artificial. A decorative fountain lit up at night like it thought it was important. Every house looked similar. Every lawn looked identical. Order, manufactured down to the inch. I wasn't part of Maple Ridge. Never had been. Never would be. But my property bordered it, and apparently, that was close enough to make me interesting. 3 months ago, Karen Walker moved in. I didn't know her name at first. Just noticed her walking the neighborhood every morning like she was inspecting it. Short blonde bob. Always dressed in pristine athleisure. Perfect posture. The kind of confidence that didn't come from competence, but from being used to people listening. Within 2 weeks, she was HOA president. Within 3, I got my first letter. It wasn't addressed to me by name. Just resident. That should have been my first clue. Inside was a polite but firm notice welcoming me to an inclusion opportunity. It outlined a one-time onboarding fee of $1,200, followed by monthly dues. Benefits included community cohesion and aesthetic alignment. I actually laughed out loud. I fed it straight into the shredder and didn't think about it again. People make mistakes. Someone probably assumed my house fell under their jurisdiction. No big deal. The second message came a week later. This one was handwritten, tucked neatly under my windshield wiper. Perfect cursive. Friendly tone. It said they noticed I hadn't responded to the welcome packet, that my formal grace period would end on the 15th. It ended with, "We hope you choose to be part of our values." No signature. Just a little HOA logo sticker in the corner, like a stamp of authority. I laughed again. Standing right there in my driveway. The third message wasn't funny. It was hand-delivered. One of the neighborhood teenagers walked it halfway up my driveway, handed it to me like it was a subpoena, and bolted. The envelope was embossed. Inside was an invitation to an HOA assembly scheduled for Friday night. I was listed by name as agenda item number 2. Forced inclusion under precedent-based community mandate. I read that line 3 times. It sounded official, legal, carefully vague. That's what bothered me. I didn't go to their meeting. I had better things to do, like reorganizing my tool bench and giving Moose a bath. But apparently, my absence was interpreted as defiance. Over the next week, HOA newsletters started showing up in my mailbox. Flyers taped to my garage. Notices of delinquency slapped onto my door like parking tickets. One genius even laminated a placard that read, "Failure to comply with community standards may result in corrective oversight procedures." That one I framed and hung in the garage. At that point, I checked my deed again. Pulled the county records. Verified zoning. Everything was exactly as I remembered. My property was not part of Maple Ridge. Zero overlap. No ambiguity. Fully independent. So I did the reasonable thing. I printed out all the documentation, highlighted the relevant sections, and mailed it certified to the Maple Ridge HOA address. I included a short note asking them to stop contacting me. I expected that to end it. It didn't. A few days later, a gray sedan started parking across the street from my house. Same spot. Same times. Around 10 in the morning. Again near dusk. Sometimes it stayed for 10 minutes. Sometimes an hour. The guy inside didn't hide what he was doing. Balding. Sunglasses. Holding something that was either a camera or binoculars. Hard to tell at that distance. Moose noticed him immediately. Every time the car showed up, Moose's ears went back. Low growl. Tail stiff. He doesn't do that for no reason. Then the HOA letters changed tone. No more friendly language. No more community pride. Now it was passive-aggressive legalese. One newsletter mentioned secondary enforcement. Another included a diagram showing a newly adopted 400-foot buffer zone. My house was labeled in red. Non-compliant Parcel A. I wasn't sure whether to be annoyed or impressed by the effort. Residents started approaching me in public. At the gas station. At the hardware store. Always polite. Always curious. "You're the guy who won't join, right?" One woman told me Karen was trying to help. Another said it wasn't about control, it was about unity. One even said, "You'd be safer with us." That word stuck with me. Safer. Safer from what? That weekend, someone started walking my property at night. I caught it twice on camera. Hood up. Flashlight angled away from the lenses. Moving slowly along the fence line. They never triggered the floodlights, but they didn't need to. The message was clear enough. I added 2 more cameras. I set Moose to sleep in the foyer. That was when I realized something important. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. It wasn't a paperwork error or an overzealous committee. Someone had decided they were entitled to control something that didn't belong to them. And people like that don't stop on their own. They escalate. By the time the gray sedan started showing up twice a day, I stopped pretending this was just annoying. Every morning around 10, it would pull up across the street, nose angled toward my driveway like it was watching me breathe. Then again at dusk. Same spot. Same timing. Sometimes it stayed 10 minutes. Sometimes an hour. The guy inside never got out. Just sat there, sunglasses on, holding something to his face. Camera. Binoculars. Didn't matter. He wasn't hiding. Moose hated him. Every time the car appeared, Moose would lift his head and let out this low growl that vibrated through his chest. Not barking. Not excited. Alert. Moose only did that when something felt wrong. I trusted that more than my own instincts some days. I pulled footage from my cameras and logged it. Date. Time. Duration. Habit from another life. I didn't call anyone yet. No threats had been made. Not explicitly. But I could feel the pressure tightening, like a vice slowly closing. The HOA notices kept coming. One flyer announced an emergency HOA policy meeting. I was listed again. This time as unauthorized use of shared infrastructure. Apparently, the fact that I drove on the same public road as Maple Ridge residents meant I was benefiting from their maintenance efforts. They were proposing a road use contribution fee. I stared at that one for a long time. I live in Texas. Claiming ownership of a public road is a good way to get laughed out of a courtroom. Or arrested. But there it was, printed neatly with bullet points and a proposed payment schedule. I put that flyer on my fridge. Right next to Moose's vet reminder. Then the nighttime activity escalated. The first time I caught movement near the back fence, I told myself it was an animal. Deer passed through sometimes. Coyotes too. The second time, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. The figure moved too carefully. Too deliberately. Hood pulled low. Flashlight angled down and away from the camera lens like they knew exactly where it was. They paced the property line. Not crossing it. Not yet. Testing. I didn't sleep much that night. I watched camera feeds from my phone. Every shadow looked sharper. Every sound felt louder. Moose stayed close, head up, ears twitching. The next morning, I found a laminated card under my windshield wiper. Final opportunity notice. Failure to engage in voluntary onboarding would result in administrative proceedings under the precedent inclusion mandate. Attendance required. Friday. 7 p.m. HOA clubhouse. Paperclip to it was a photograph. My house. Taken from the street. Printed in color. The word subject property stamped across the front door in red. That crossed the line. I scanned everything. Uploaded copies to a secure folder. Filed an online report with the county clerk's office. Then I called Sean, a deputy I knew from the sheriff's department. He called me back that night. "Dex," he said, "what the hell is going on over there?" "You tell me," I replied. "You ever heard of a precedent inclusion mandate?" He laughed once. Sharp and humorless. "That sounds like something a drunk law student made up." "You want to send someone out?" he asked. "Not yet," I said. "But keep your phone close." I hung up and looked out the window. The gray sedan was back. At that point, I stopped pretending this would blow over. I double-checked my panic system. Silent. Direct line. No sirens unless I wanted them. I added 2 more infrared cameras covering blind spots. Adjusted floodlight sensitivity. Locked everything down. If someone came onto my property again, I wanted it documented from every angle. 2 days later, it happened. It was just after 8 in the morning. Dew still clung to the grass. I was in the garage fixing the tension spring on the door, hands greasy, sleeves rolled up. Moose lay nearby, destroying a tennis ball like it had personally offended him. It was a normal morning. Then I heard the knock. Not a casual tap. Not the hesitant knock of someone hoping you weren't home. 3 loud, deliberate thuds. The kind of knock that assumes authority. I didn't answer. I walked over to the wall-mounted monitor and switched to the front porch camera. 3 men stood outside. Black tactical-style uniforms. Reflective vests. Boots laced tight. Across their chests, stitched in bold letters, were the words Community Enforcement Division. I felt something cold settle in my gut. 2 wore sunglasses. The third was heavier set, holding a clipboard. All 3 had patches on their sleeves that looked suspiciously homemade. One even had a gold oak leaf stitched on like someone had Googled police badge and tried their best. The clipboard guy knocked again. "Mr. Dexter Winslow," he called out. "This is an official HOA enforcement call. Please open the door." Official. I watched carefully. The tall one, buzz cut, was holding something behind his leg. Not concealed well. A taser. Civilian grade, but still a weapon. Still illegal on my property. I cracked the door just enough to speak. Didn't step outside. Kept my foot planted. Moose was at my side immediately, growl building low in his chest. "You're not law enforcement," I said. "You have no jurisdiction here." Clipboard guy smiled like he'd practiced it. "Sir, you are in violation of Maple Ridge Ordinance 64 Bravo," he said, reading from the page. "We are authorized to collect unpaid dues and initiate pre-asset assessment procedures." Pre-asset assessment? I repeated. "That's correct." "Buddy," I said, "I'm not in your HOA." The tall one shifted his weight. Took half a step forward. Clipboard guy lifted a single sheet of paper toward the crack in the door. Cheap printer paper. HOA logo at the top. Fake watermark. "We have a directive signed by HOA leadership," he said, "authorizing escalation in cases of noncompliance. If you printed that off Canva," I muttered, "you should ask for a refund." The tall one didn't like that. He stepped forward again. His boot crossed the threshold. My entry sensor chimed softly. He didn't know what he'd just done. "Sir," he said, voice low, "if you don't comply, we'll be forced to initiate a soft breach." I blinked. "A soft what?" "Soft breach," he repeated. "Immediate lien enforcement." "You mean breaking into my house?" Clipboard guy started backpedaling. Symbolically. I pressed the panic button. No sound. No flashing lights. Just a silent signal racing straight to the sheriff's office. Moose lunged. I held him tight, but the sound he made echoed off the porch like a warning shot. Deep. Angry. The twitchy one flinched hard and dropped what he was holding. It clattered onto the concrete. A stun baton. That's when I heard it. Sirens. Not close yet. But coming. The tall one's eyes flicked toward the street. Just once. Enough. Everything changed. Clipboard guy started talking faster, words tumbling over each other. The twitchy one took a step back. The tall one turned. And ran. He made it 3 steps down my porch stairs before his boot hit wet concrete. He slipped, flailed, and went down hard. The sound his arm made wasn't something you forget. He screamed. Then the cruisers hit the street. 2 of them. Lights blazing. Tires screaming. Doors flying open. "Sheriff's Department," a voice roared. "Hands where we can see them." Clipboard guy froze. His fake badge popped off his vest and hit the ground. The twitchy one dropped to his knees immediately, hands behind his head, mumbling something about being a volunteer. Deputies swarmed. Weapons drawn. Commands sharp. It was over in seconds. As they cuffed the men and started searching them, one of the deputies shook his head. "Why do they always run?" he muttered, looking at the tall guy writhing on the ground. "Especially when they're not even supposed to be here." The sheriff himself walked up to my porch. "You okay, Dex?" I nodded. "They brought tasers," I said. He grunted and turned back to the suspects. "Well," he said, "that was a bad decision." As deputies pulled weapons, fake badges, and forged paperwork from their pockets, one of them opened a clipboard and frowned. "Sheriff," he said, "you're gonna want to see this." I watched as he flipped through pages. Maps. Citations. Notices. My house circled in red. And a handwritten note taped to the inside cover. If hostile, use gentle force. Don't damage property. The sheriff looked at me slowly. Looks like, he said, this isn't just you. And that's when I knew this was about to get a whole lot bigger. The street was quiet again, but it didn't feel peaceful. Not yet. Deputies were everywhere. One checking the tall guy's arm while he groaned on the pavement. Another photographing the porch. Another carefully placing the stun baton into an evidence bag like it was radioactive. Clipboard guy sat on the curb, wrists zip-tied behind his back, still trying to explain himself to anyone who would listen. We were just enforcing community standards, he kept saying. This is authorized. The sheriff looked down at him like a disappointed father. Son, he said, you brought weapons to a house you don't own, wearing fake badges, threatening a man who never agreed to your rules. That's not enforcement. That's a felony. That finally shut him up. They asked for my footage. I already had it queued up on my phone. Every angle. Every word. The threshold crossing. The taser. The soft breach line. The sheriff nodded as he watched. Smart man, he said. The gray SUV parked 2 houses down didn't look like much from the outside, but inside it was a treasure trove of stupidity. Deputies opened the back and just stared for a second. Zip ties. Rubber gloves. Pepper spray. A stack of laminated door hanger violation tags. Pre-filled citation forms. Fake ID cards with barcodes. A duffel bag full of uniforms. And a binder. Phase 1 targets. My address was circled in red. Inside the binder were more pages. Names. Houses. Notes written in neat handwriting. Avoid confrontation. Dog present. Resists authority. At the bottom of every page, the same line. Authorized by K. Walker. The sheriff exhaled slowly through his nose. Well, he said, that explains a lot. Before the sun was fully overhead, the SUV was impounded, the men were loaded into cruisers, and my driveway was clear again. Moose finally relaxed, laid down, and let out a satisfied huff like the work was done. It wasn't. By noon, unmarked cars were parked outside the Maple Ridge Clubhouse. Investigators going in and out with boxes, laptops, armfuls of files. The sheriff called me personally. We're executing a warrant, he said. You might want to stay close. They found everything. Receipts from tactical supply websites. Uniform invoices. Payments for vehicle leasing. All charged to the HOA's shared account. Karen Walker's signature on every approval. Emails instructing the fake patrol on when to visit which houses. One subject line read, Escalation Protocol, Resistant Property. Mine. They also found forged city documents. Fake buffer zone authorizations. Letters stamped with counterfeit seals. And a trail of payments to a city clerk who thought he was clever enough not to get caught. He wasn't. Karen Walker was arrested the next morning. She tried to smile as they cuffed her on the clubhouse steps, like this was all a misunderstanding she could manage if she just spoke to the right person. Cameras rolled. Neighbors watched. Someone clapped. Someone else filmed on their phone without even pretending to hide it. Karen didn't look at me. The news cycle loved it. HOA fake police scheme exposed. Community enforcement turns criminal. Homeowner triggers arrest of fake cops. Reporters tried to get me to talk. I gave them one line and nothing more. Authority without law is just cosplay. The courtroom wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No gasps. Just evidence. Emails. Audio recordings. Footage. Financial records. The fake patrol's body cams, which they had apparently worn for accountability. One clip played Karen's voice clearly over a speaker. "Don't let him talk circles around you," she said. "Stand firm. He's military. They respond to dominance." That one landed hard. Her lawyer objected. "A lot." It didn't matter. The city clerk testified. Admitted to forging documents. Admitted to taking money. Admitted Karen came up with the term precedent inclusion mandate because it sounded official enough to scare people who didn't know better. The judge didn't blink. The jury didn't deliberate long. Guilty. On everything. Fraud. Criminal impersonation. Conspiracy. Unlawful detention conspiracy. Wire fraud. Bribery of a public official. Karen stood straight when the sentence was read. 10 years. No parole. Federal time. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. Her mouth twitched once, like she'd bitten down on something bitter and couldn't spit it out. As they led her away, she finally looked toward the gallery. Toward me. For just a second. Then she was gone. Maple Ridge collapsed fast after that. The HOA board resigned. Insurance pulled out. Lawsuits stacked up. The county froze assets. Vendors demanded payment. The fountain shut off. The hedges went untrimmed. The illusion cracked, and once it did, it never came back together. Within 60 days, Maple Ridge HOA was formally dissolved under state law. Restitution checks were issued. Mine cleared. I used part of it to upgrade my security system again. Tripwire detection. Thermal overlays. A reinforced front door that could stop a truck if it needed to. I also put up a sign at the gate. Matte black. Laser engraved. This property is protected by the Constitution of the United States. Moose approved. Life settled back into something close to quiet. The gray sedan never came back. No more letters. No more flyers. No more people telling me I'd be safer if I complied. The only knock on my door now is the mail carrier, and even then, Moose watches like he's evaluating intent. Sometimes people ask if it was worth it. All the stress. All the attention. The fallout. I tell them the same thing every time. Some people think authority comes from confidence. From uniforms. From pretending loudly enough that no one challenges you. Karen built an empire out of paper, fake badges, and borrowed power. It only worked because no one pushed back. I did. And it turned out, the law was on my side the whole time. Moose still sleeps in the foyer. I still drink my coffee on the porch. And the quiet I paid for? I earned it.